It's been close to 20 years since I introduced the TDG to the world, and I've got a lot of people interested into talking about it. But when I do talk about it, a lot of people believe that democracy can be better by just kind of fiddling or tinkering with the current rules, and we're going to be governed a lot more wisely, a lot more better, a lot more foresight. And of course, if you've read my book or you've seen other videos, you know I don't believe in that at all. Western democracy just can't improve itself. And I've also talked to other people who have another train of thought, and they like to stress is that if we become a better individual, then somehow that betterment of that individual will also improve democracy as well too. And to bring that up, I'm just going to bring this Aboriginal model of that I've seen of the interactions in our society, and we have the individual. And the individual, if you've got a strong individual, they can raise a strong family. The individual will also help to build a community as well. Strong families raise strong communities. And of course, this all permeates in the nation here. And so if you have strong individuals, they will affect the other three. If you have strong families, they will affect the other three. And if you have strong communities, they will affect the other three. And strong nations, that will do the same as well too. Okay, so that's the idea. And is that any one of these entities can elevate the other three, or they can bring them down. Okay, so they say, well, the way to improve democracy is to change ourselves, and by changing ourselves, we're going to have a better family, we're going to have a better community, we're going to have a better nation. And so therefore, it's really not that important to do any changes to Western democracy, because the onus lies on the individuals, not in any sets of rules that help govern us. So I think there is some truth to that, except when we look at the nation that we're in, when we look at our parliaments, when we look at our congresses, and what's going on inside there. And can we say that the nation is in a position to really uplift the individual, uplift the communities, and uplift the families? I think that's a good question. If we were to take that same culture that is in our nation and put it into a business, I think many businesses would go broke fairly quickly. I think we would have a lot of dysfunctional communities if we took that same culture of power accumulation and gathering. The nation here is really not in a position to elevate these other three. So if the nation is not doing its part in this circle, how far can it actually elevate the individual? For example, if the nation is a little sick, then some individuals are not going to improve their own station with their individual lives, and they are not going to be able to affect their families and their communities. So on one hand, we can say that we really need to work on this nation here, part of our circle here. This is where we need to put the emphasis at this point in time. There's a good argument for that. So I am hoping that the TDG is going to improve the nation part of this circle. And when the nation is improved, then there'll be more individuals that will become stronger. There will be more families that become stronger. There will be more communities that will become stronger. So we need to ask ourselves, how healthy is the nation in this circle? When we look at our parliaments and we look at our congresses and we see the bickering and the fighting going on there and the contest for power and influence, is the nation really, really healthy? And if it isn't, it is not in a position to affect the individual, to affect the family, to affect the community. So in this sense, the nation is kind of holding us back. If we were to take a lot of the attributes that we find in our nations and put them into a business, many businesses would fail. If we were to take a lot of attributes and put them into a nonprofit world, into nonprofit societies, those societies would probably fail. If we were to take what's going on in our parliaments and congresses and put them into our community, many more communities would be failing as well too. So the nation is not a good example. With this nation not being as healthy as it should be, it is affecting individuals. For example, the nation has taught us that our opinions and perspectives are vastly superior to those opinions and perspectives of people who disagree with us. That is a sign of a sick nation to individual relationship. And our nation has also taught us is that rather than to seek the truth, we are to spin our own truth and hopefully inflict it on the rest of the world. We're not looking for the truth anymore. We want to make sure that our truth, whatever version it is out front and push other versions of the truth way out to the back. Now, to me, that's a sign that the nation is not very well and it is affecting the individual. Now, I am hoping is that if we can replace our Western democracy with the TDG, this nation is going to become much stronger, and this in turn is going to affect individuals, communities, and families to make them stronger as well. And with that, with all four of these parts getting stronger, we're going to have a much more advanced and better society to live in. It might seem that I am critical of Western democracy, and I wish to allay the suspicion. My cultural heritage is that I come from the peasant classes of Eastern Europe. And the peasants in those times, they just had no aspirations for a better life. You know, the life they were born into, that was the life that they were always going to have. And that was the life that their children were going to have and their grandchildren were going to have. Their purpose in life was to basically provide the labor that the rich people needed to do. And they had no further expectations beyond that. And so if someone would have told my great-grandparents that one of your progeny was going to write a book about changing Western democracy and it might change the world, they would have probably laughed you out of their small little house and said, that's crazy. We just don't do things like that. And so the world has changed. So now there's a lot more opportunity in the world. And in a lot of ways, Western democracy is the reason for that opportunity. For example, I got the education and experience to create and write something about tiered democratic governance. I had the opportunity to write this book, and I had the freedom to write this book and to put it on the internet. If we look back on history, and for most of the people of the world, that education, the experience, the opportunity, and the freedom to do something like write a book called Tiered Democratic Governance really has not been there. So I'm very thankful that Western democracy has created these conditions for me to write this book and publish it and let the world know about it. But I think Western democracy has outlived its usefulness. It is time to move on to a new system of governance, one that will make the nation stronger than it is right now.